What's up guys? Today we're going to be doing a more real-time sharpening video for you here. And I wanted to demonstrate this guy right here, the Worksharp Precision Adjust. This is not a sponsored video. I paid for this with my own money, and I recently did a brief overview on the sharpener, and I wanted to do a more real-life how to sharpen a knife using this sharpener. Now, first off, I apologize for the sort of inception-y thing that we have going on here where we've got the camera in the back. This sharpener is designed to face the user like this. And when it's like this, you obviously can't see what I'm doing. So I've got this other camera back here so that you can kind of see what's going on. So the knife that we're going to be sharpening today, for reference, is the Grimsmo Nordsman. This is a retail, this is about a $1,000 knife. It may even be more depending on the variant that you get. Recently did a video on this guy. I'll also link that down below. So the first thing that we're going to be doing here is switching the camera angle so that you can see what's going on. As we're sharpening here, we'll talk briefly about the sharpener and what's going on. So first off, we're going to put the knife into the jaws here. Now the jaws on this sharpener have, I don't want to say a lot of complaints, but there are complaints about the jaws on the sharpener being flexy. And you have to remember, you have to put into perspective what this sharpener actually is. This is a $60 sharpener. A lot of people in my overview video of this sharpener said that, you know, obviously they were comparing this to other sharpeners. And the other sharpeners that they were comparing were well north of $100, some of them even $200. So you have to remember that this sharpener is a $60 and under, depending on where you buy it, knife sharpener. And for what it is, I think that it works as good, if not better, than anything else currently available. I've done other reviews on other sharpeners that are priced about this price and below, and they're not good. None of them I've tested are really that good. This thing is definitely the best that I've tested. A lot of that has to do with the stones themselves. In fact, the last review that I did on a sharpener in this price range, I messed around with for 2 days, and I couldn't sharpen a single knife with it. A lot of that had to do with the stones, but there was also a whole host of other problems associated with that sharpener that didn't allow me to get a sharp edge whatsoever. This thing, however, I was able to get a sharp knife within minutes on, even on a $1,000 knife. So, first thing that is important here is to realize that these jaws are designed to be used with certain knives. Now, other knives they don't work as well on. We're not going to go over all of this, but basically, you've got these little bird's mouth features on the sides of these jaws. And what you're supposed to do is put your knife in here and seat it all the way against that, can you see this? That bird mouth there. Okay, on both sides. Now, obviously, depending on your blade shape, you may not be able to do that as well with some knives versus others. But on this knife, it works really well. We're going to push those into that bird's mouth and we're going to tighten it down. You don't want to go crazy tight on this, but that's definitely tight enough in order to do the sharpening work that we need to do. Now this knife isn't super crazy dull. It definitely needs a touch up. I was out cutting all kinds of stuff yesterday, including a nasty old dirty tarp because I'm replacing a roof on a building. And this knife was used in that, and it was also, it needs sharpened, but it's not brick dull. We'll put it that way. We'll go ahead and snap our angle in here. We'll switch over to our coarsest grit, which is the 320. Obviously, like I mentioned in that other video, I'd like this to be at least a 220, maybe even coarser. But in that last video, I sharpened this knife at, I think this was 17 or 18 degrees. Actually, I don't know. It's either 17 or 18 degrees here. I think it was 17. So we'll take this down to 17 degrees. So 15, and then that would be 16 and 17. I want to match the angle that's already on here, but I'm actually not sure, so I'm going to end up using the Sharpie trick. I actually use this trick often if I don't know the angle, especially mainly on these fixed angle systems because they are so dependent on angle. So basically, I'm just going to take the Sharpie and we'll color in our bevel, like so. Now, we'll set this at, I think this is 17 degrees. So I'll set it at 17 and I'm going to make a very light pass right in the front here. Now I can see that we're probably Yep, so this isn't 17. I must have sharpened this. Let's try 18. So I don't know if you can see this. Hopefully you can, where we've just removed a little bit of the Sharpie towards the top of the bevel, but we're not hitting the bottom of the bevel near the apex. So we'll raise the angle up on this a degree or two, and we'll do this again. And that's actually perfect. That's right there. We removed that Sharpie off of the entire bevel. So we are at 15, 16, 17, 18 degrees per side on this knife. Now, the nice thing about this is that the angle adjusts so easily, and I'll kind of demonstrate that on this Tanto portion of the knife in a second again. So that's our angle, 18 degrees, and I'm starting on the coarsest grit, and we're just gonna start making some passes on here. Now I've got these stops set a little low. Usually you'll adjust these up so that you don't overshoot your edge, like so. And then this one on the bottom will come down. Need to adjust this up a little bit, like that. So that way we can't go too far past that way and too far past the other way. Now one thing that I typically like to do is I typically like to sharpen with the scratch pattern in this direction like this. Now if you notice, if you go back in this direction, you'll kind of get a scratch pattern that goes back in this direction. I think that that's the wrong direction. I like to try to align the scratch pattern up with the stuff that I'm cutting. So if you're using a knife like this, the scratch pattern is angled in this direction, so those teeth are going to be coming down into sort of like a saw into whatever it is that you're cutting, versus angled away from it as you're cutting stuff. I don't know how much this actually helps in real life, but it's one thing I like doing. It especially helps when you're stropping. We'll get to that point in a second. So I'll sharpen this side here like so. Now if you have to remove a lot of material, it's hard for me to talk and do this. Hopefully the audio is good. But if you have to remove a lot of material, sometimes I will go in a crosshatch pattern, but I always finish with my scratch pattern going in this direction. And also, keep in mind, I'm doing this kind of awkwardly because I've got two cameras set up here and I don't want to block them. Typically, this would be right in front of me and it wouldn't look as awkward as it does. So what you want to do here is, as we're sharpening, you want to consistently feel for a burr raised on the back side of this. Now, I don't have to do a lot of material removal here. But if I did, I would want to make sure that my bevels are even along both sides. So I actually put this knife in the wrong direction. So we'll flip it upside down, and then we're gonna actually put this back in the other side so that we can flip it properly, because it only rotates in one direction. So we'll just flip it, and see, now we can rotate it the correct direction. We'll go to the other side and we'll sharpen. And again, scratch pattern is going in this direction here. So the nice thing about these narrow stones is that they do work on recurves like this, right? You need narrow stones for blades with recurves, or you're gonna wear out the sides of your other sharpening stones because you need the corners of those. Maybe we'll demonstrate that in another video. But we are moving right along. This side may even have required a little bit of reprofiling. Just a tiny bit to align those, make sure that we get a nice, even, crisp bevel along there. So now I'm kind of going in a back and forth direction just to help speed up material removal. But I'll always try and finish with the scratch pattern. Yep, we've got a burr along the other side now. So we can go ahead and we'll change this scratch pattern going to the direction that we need. And this is what takes the longest here, getting this initial profile done. And this is why I would like a coarser stone rather than this 320. So the idea here is to keep this bevel and this bevel the same size on both sides. So if you notice that you're sharpening a little bit too much on one side and that bevel's getting a little bit too large, flip the knife over and even it out on the other side. Usually in the process of doing that, you'll create a burr and apex. And you don't, a lot of people ask about creating a burr and apexing. You only create one burr and you only apex one time. You can't apex more than once and you can't create more than one burr. And the idea is that we're going to create a burr, and I'm just sort of evening out the bevels here. We're pretty much apexed everywhere that we need to be. We're going to confirm that with our finger. I can just feel along the edge there that we do have a burr, and the knife should feel sharp at this point, which it does. So we're going to make sure we orient our scratch pattern the way that we like. And you can probably see some flex in this as we're using it. And again, that's another reason why I would like to have a coarser stone, because the coarser stones mean you have to put less pressure in order to remove the same amount of material. So now I have this, I'm just going to do a couple burr minimization passes while I'm on this bevel. And these are just progressively lighter and lighter passes on here. Push it in, and rotate. Now you don't have to do this on the coarser grit, but I'm doing this sort of for demonstration purposes. We want to minimize this burr as much as possible before we move on. And that's actually feeling really, really nice there. So now, before we move on to our Tanto portion here, let's flip this back over. We're going to go ahead and refine this up to about 600 grit on here, because I don't want to move this angle and then come back to it. So what I'm going to do to refine this is, this doesn't take long. We're going to go in a back and forth direction, which is kind of changing the scratch pattern. And this doesn't take long. We're actually almost done. Now we're going to move the scratch pattern into the direction that we want. And we're pretty much done. That's all it takes on these finer diamond stones. You don't have to sit here for an hour to refine the scratch pattern. We've already apexed. We don't need to go crazy removing material. So back and forth to make sure that we are fully refined, because we can see the scratch pattern, or I can see it, and we can see that it's changing. A little spot right there. We'll work that out. And then we'll make sure our scratch pattern is going in the direction that we would like. You don't have to do that. And then sort of the same thing. We'll go back and we'll do some burr minimization passes. So again, this may look a little bit awkward on camera, but I'm not sitting right in front of it, and I'm also kind of looking into a camera monitor as I do this, so. Oh, that actually feels very, very, very sharp. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just, before I change this to this angle, I want to finish this bevel. Now I'm going to switch over to our ceramic, and this is not really to refine our scratch pattern, because it's in my opinion, it's a little bit too fine to make the jump from that 600 to whatever this ceramic is, probably like 5,000, 8,000 maybe. It's a very fine ceramic. The idea here is that we're just minimizing that burr right along the apex. So we'll take this, and we're just going to do a handful of passes here. Now you may get some refinement out of it, but it's not, you're still going to have those 600 grit scratches in there if you were to try to do like a mirror finish or something, you're still gonna see these. But basically what we're doing is we're just refining, I'm sorry, not refining, we are removing the burr as much as possible. And I can feel the burr on here with this stone. All right, we'll flip this back over. I think we're pretty much done. And that is very sharp. So what we're gonna do now is we need to sharpen this Tanto portion, which I sharpened at a different angle. So we're gonna have to, I'm gonna kind of turn this a little bit, and hopefully you can see this here. But we're gonna do the Sharpie trick. Drop my Sharpie. We'll color in this bevel, just so that we can get a handle on what angle this actually is. Make sure you color in this whole bevel too. And then we'll switch back over to our coarse grit stone. And I think I pulled this up to 20 degrees, if I remember correctly. So we'll take this up to 20. We'll just do a really light pass. And I think that that's it. You can kind of see where right there in the middle, we've removed most of that Sharpie. So we'll go back, this is 20 degrees, and we're on our coarsest grit. We'll just start sharpening. Now this is tricky. It is tedious to do knives like this. There's just no two ways about being, you know, these knives being tedious. Like, it's gonna take a little bit more time than your straight up, you know, drop points. That actually didn't take a whole lot of time there whatsoever. Make sure that we're fully apexed here. And you want to be careful now because this blade is extremely sharp, and if you slip off of here, you're gonna cut yourself. Ask me how I know. Actually, don't ask me because you probably don't want to know. But these fixed angle systems are somewhat risky because I think it's easier to cut yourself with these than freehand. So again, what we're going to do is we'll rotate this, and we don't have to do the Sharpie trick again because we know that that's our angle from the other side. This is where it gets a little bit awkward because I'm trying to keep this in the camera and you want to try to not slip off. We're almost there. I think we are there. Oh, that actually is very sharp. Almost cut myself. Switch over to the 600. Same thing. Grit refinement. It shouldn't take a whole ton of time on the 600. Try not to slip off the edge here. Which I probably will and damage the tip, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Just like that. So all we're doing here is scratch pattern refinement. Don't have to put a lot of pressure. All right, flip sides. This is gonna be the tricky one because gotta kind of contort my way around here. Now, obviously, if I wasn't making this video, we could do this a whole lot faster. You know, don't look at the length of this video and think that that's how long it takes to sharpen a knife. Because once you get the hang of this, you can do this in a matter of a couple of minutes. even a knife like this. It's just, you know, we're talking as we go here and trying to show you exactly what's happening. Now, we've got that done. We're apex. Our edge is feeling very sharp. We're going to switch over to our ceramic. Do the same thing. This is our burr refinement step. Now, our burr is technically on the other side. So we'll switch this over like so. Bring this around. And you wouldn't have to like swing this around like this if it wasn't for making a video. So keep that in mind as well. You might have to move it a little bit, but I'm trying to keep this in the so that you can actually see what it is that I'm talking about. We do have some refinement with this stone. But like I said, if you're going to be going and thinking that you're going to have a mirror polish off of this, it's just not going to happen. You need more in between grit leading up to this ceramic. Oh, that is very, very nice. I'll do one more pass, one more swipe on this side. Now we feel sharp pretty much everywhere. So we're gonna, at this point, I think that we're actually pretty much done. And a lot of people at this point are going to be happy with this edge. It'll probably cut paper everywhere, but I think that there's still gonna be a burr on here. Oh yeah. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with an edge like this directly off of this fixed angle system. Hopefully we don't have to put this back in. It's hard to cut paper with this because it's so small. And I think that there's probably a burr on here, but you can see, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a burr on there. But even that's a hefty angle on there, and it'll still slice this thin paper like this. But if you want to take this to the next level, you absolutely can, and I do recommend it. So we'll get our strop here. This is a 1 micron diamond strop. I don't use chromium oxide anymore. I think it's a waste of money. I think it's a waste of time. We have better things out there, better technology like diamond compound. And to tell you the truth, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what brand you get per se. I would stay away from the uber cheap stuff from Amazon. You just need diamond compound, and some of it works differently than others. Some of it provides a different feel on the strop. Some of it lasts longer on the strop depending on some of the other things that you are okay with living with. This is an oil-based compound that hopefully we're going to be selling again here soon. But right now I'm not currently selling it, but I will be soon. But any of the other stropping compounds will technically work. And we're just going to strop this edge, and we're going to use the corner of the strop very lightly on here because we don't have a whole lot of surface area for us to come into contact here, and we don't want to roll this edge over. Which, if you have nice stiff leather like this, the risk of rolling an edge is a whole lot less, and you can use a lot more pressure. If you're using a very soft leather, those can roll edges very, very easily, which is why the stropping surface matters. A lot of people say it doesn't matter. I think it does matter. I think a proper strop surface is a whole lot more forgiving than one that's not. Now, this is probably, oh, that's definitely better. I mean, let's see if we can, this one's a little bit more tricky. But strop this guy like so. And hopefully we don't roll it. This one's tricky because we don't have a whole lot of surface area here. And my muscle memory is not used to doing this like this. I'll wipe this blade off. Hopefully I didn't roll it there. Oh yeah, that's good. Look at that. Now this is thin magazine paper. And lots of people are going to be happy with this edge. Yep. So there you have it. $1,000 knife sharpened on a $59 sharpener. And that's a complicated blade shape to sharpen. So how much easier is it to sharpen a knife? Like the Kaiser Drop Bear, this is a whole lot easier to sharpen, a whole lot faster to sharpen, and honestly, this is probably a better knife for the vast majority of you. But for now, I'm going to keep carrying this, stick this in my pocket, and go cut some more tarp with it. That's that is not bad for a single strop. It's a 1 micron strop, by the way. So I'm not kidding you here. This is it's just cutting whatever it wants to, whichever direction. Yeah, that's sharp. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to do these a little bit more often with some of the other stuff that I review to show how they work in real life. Real quick, I do think that if you are looking at fixed angle systems, you know, really analyze what your budget is, and keep in mind that this is a $60 sharpener. Are there better sharpeners out there? Absolutely. But are they $60? That's the question and the thing that you have to keep in mind. For me, I think this is the best one that I have seen for that price point without having to make any modifications or do any weird things or change stones out. You can throw a pocket knife in this and sharpen the vast majority of pocket knives in this in a couple of minutes, to very high standards if you're willing to take the time to use it correctly and figure things out. Again, if you're comparing this to a $240 or $250 or $500 system, there's no comparison. But again, you're spending 10 times as much for those systems in some cases. So it's not really a fair comparison. Oh. Still good. We're still good. There you go. Durability test. Still good.